This episode is brought to you by Opportunities. At Opportunities, they offer unique blends of premium tea with proven supplements. Do you want more energy, focus, and mental clarity? Try Clear Tea today. For 10% off, go to opportunities.com and use the promo code SMARTPeople.
A podcast where we talk to smart people, but not necessarily done by smart people.
That is an awesome question.
This one goes down probably on one of my top 5.
Hey, I like nutrition. I like to eat food.
This is the coolest thing ever. We're going to do this forever.
I wish I paid more attention in that class.
You know, I'm going to be honest, I don't understand that. As a man, I don't get it.
Welcome to smartpeoplepodcast.com.
Welcome to Smart People Podcast, conversations that satisfy your curious mind. I'm Chris Stemp.
And I'm John Rojas.
Incredible show for you today. Really want to dig deep and get into grit and determination and willpower today as we talk to Joe Sena, the founder of the Spartan Race. You probably heard of the Spartan Race. You probably run one or been in one. It's very similar to all these other ones. There's Tough Mudder and just these tough, long runs that test your mind and body. John,
these adventure races, if you will.
You did one, and
yeah, I did one, and I'm content with that. Just one.
But Joe really does cover a lot of good territory about how we need to test our willpower. We have to build this mental toughness, and how oftentimes in this generation, we are losing that mentality.
Yeah, and he wrote a book to discuss just this. It's called Spartan Up, a take-no-prisoners guide to overcoming obstacles and achieving peak performance in life.
So you can't tell me you don't want to read that or hear what Joe has to say. We're going to turn it over here to Joe in a minute. First, we want to make sure you go over to smartpeoplepodcast.com, check us out, sign up for the newsletter, and connect with us. That's what we're here to do. We want to hear from you, know what you like, what you don't like, what we can do better.
As we mentioned, Joe is the founder of the Spartan Race, wrote the book Spartan Up, and he actually came from a life on Wall Street where he was able to build up the finances necessary to move forward with this entrepreneurial idea that he had. And he even goes more into his childhood, his rough upbringing, maybe some mafia involvement, not
yes.
him directly, but
he was the pool boy for the mafia. Does it get any more mafia than that?
It's so amazing. We've got a fantastic episode for you guys here this week. Please enjoy our conversation with Joe Sena.
Really excited to talk to you. I myself want to learn a lot about mental toughness. Sometimes I question my own, so I figured you'd be a great person to talk to about that. But before we get into that, I read on Wikipedia something that was interesting, and you can't always believe what's on Wikipedia, but it said that growing up, you lived in an area that was controlled by a mafia don. Is that for real?
4 of them, not just one. It was organized crime capital of the world where I grew up. It was a town called Howard Beach. So if you ever saw the movie Goodfellas, we were right in the heart of it. And just stop me if I'm going off track here, but I became a pool guy at a young age in that environment because my neighbor growing up was the head of one of the families. And I didn't know, at a young age, you don't know that. You do know that all the people with money and the flash and the things that are exciting and the conversations at dinner tables are about people that you find out later did some wild things for a living. And you were attracted to it because that was the buzz. So anyway, he didn't have any sons. He had 3 daughters, and he took me in under his wing and gave me my first job, which was cleaning his swimming pool, and then that grew into eventually cleaning pools for 750 customers, most of whom were affiliated in one way or another. And so it was a really interesting social experiment for me for over a decade.
That's absolutely bizarre. So
yeah, I mean, we could do another whole show on how bizarre.
Yeah, I'm sure we could, actually. It'd be one follow-up on that, and then we can move on. But as you were doing that, how did that affect your view of the world at such a young age? I mean, did you – because obviously that's not a normal upbringing by any sense of the word. So how did that change the way you kind of viewed normal life or reality?
Well, first of all, I've never – other than my wife's family – I've never met, and I met a lot of families. Don't forget, I had 750 pool customers. On the side, I had a construction business. So I walked into all these homes and really became part of their family during the summers. And I mean, I was very personable, and I ate over their houses and I got to know them. So even with all that experience, I don't really know of many normal homes when you say that. So my wife is the only one I know, and I'm not saying because my wife, that had like the Leave It to Beaver perfect, upbringing. Parents get along perfectly, and it was almost, that was bizarre to me because I had never seen that before. It was almost fake. So in the New York area, especially when you're outside Manhattan in the boroughs, it's pretty normal to have an abnormal upbringing. It's just an insane place.
That actually makes a lot of sense when you mention it like that. I would have never thought of it from that perspective. How do you think that reality shaped then what you have gone on to do, which we'll get into, but obviously you've decided you never want to take the easy road. Do you think that started from that young age?
I think so. I think I have children now. And so I spend a lot of my time. Well, first of all, I've always spent time thinking about how to be better, why things work the way they do. I'm just always interested in talking to older people, not making mistakes that they already made. And now with children, it's especially fascinating, and it's a big focus because I don't want to make a mistake with them. And well, I'm sure there's many handbooks, but you know what I mean when I say there's no handbook.
Yeah.
You get children, hopefully you don't screw up. But I want them to take the good qualities that I have and not the bad ones. And unfortunately, we live on a farm in Vermont now, so they don't have the background that you're asking about. And I think that background, that stuff that was going on in that environment, the hustling, I mean, these people were tough, right? I mean, the people had to be able to, quote unquote, do the time, right? I can't tell you how many friends went to jail or died. And again, it wasn't like an area of the Bronx or even East New York, which was right next to us, where there were explosions or gunshots everywhere. It was a very good, in many ways, tame neighborhood. But from my focus, a guy that was in these 750 homes, there were people disappearing on a weekly basis. and going places that, either never coming back or going away for 20 or 30 years. And so I'm sure that helped shape this idea behind grit and toughness that I have. And I don't know how to pass that on without putting somebody in that environment.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. What I'm gathering is from your childhood, you learned a lot of these characteristics and attributes that make somebody successful. And by all accounts, you have been successful and can say a lot of it's from the grit, determination, perseverance that you learned from a young age. So then you have your own children. You live on a farm in Vermont, quite the different upbringing. First of all, which one do you feel is better? I mean, growing up in a very controlled, I'm assuming, stable environment, or the one you were in yourself? And then is that why you created the Spartan Race, or this mindset in general, to pass that along to people no matter where they grow up?
It's a $64 million question. It's something that plagues me on a daily basis, because clearly anyone in their right mind would say if they had the choice between the idyllic farm in Vermont, in a perfect setting to raise children, versus a place in Queens with all of that culture that I just described, you'd choose the farm every single time. Malcolm Gladwell just wrote a book, right? David and Goliath. And he dives right into that concept that, and I just talked about it last night, again, with someone, which was, is there a chance my kids could get those good qualities you're asking me about from the farm? And I don't think there's a chance. Now, will they get other really good qualities? Sure. So the question is, can I create components of that environment with those kind of cultural influences of grit and toughness and so forth for my children? And I don't know. I don't know if we've got to leave the farm for maybe 6 months and go live in like some rundown place outside of Mexico City or something. I don't know. I think about it a lot, and I'm not going to roll the dice with it because the thing that frustrates me most and drives me most in life is this fact that 99% of the people in the world are sleepwalking. They're literally just sleepwalking through life. They're living in a bubble wrapped existence. They're lazy. They don't get really anything done. They get stuck in their own existence. And it's so easy to get out of it and just really live life. And so I can't let my kids end up like that.
Right. No, and I can totally appreciate that. And that makes me wonder, in your opinion, when you say really live life versus the people that are in their bubble, what does that entail? Are you strictly talking about the physical aspect of what the human body can do, or what are you considering that really living?
You can't forget that the mind, and I think we all forget, the mind lives inside the body. So it's not, you can't just say, is it physical or mental? When you put physical stress on the body, that affects the mind. That's a great way to change the mind. When the body is unhealthy, the mind is living inside that unhealthy body. So they're not disconnected. And so my answer to that is, you've got to face adversity. Adversity is the road to success, no matter how you define success. And we're not living in a world where you naturally would face adversity. Everything we do is to try to hide from it, stay away from it. Perfectly temperature-controlled shower, perfectly temperature-controlled house, food on demand, movies on demand, car starts when you ask it to, coffee's the perfect temperature. It's a perfect bubble-wrap packaged life. And that's very far from what I'm suggesting, which is throw some adversity at yourself, right? Get outside in bad weather. You'll actually get better training in bad weather, not just physically, but mentally. Do things that are uncomfortable. Take a cold shower. And these are not natural acts. This is not stuff that you would even think somebody should be preaching.
I love that. I mean, I've never thought about that. The mind being inside the body, and just in general, I just wanted to pause and say that was great. So I appreciate that. So let's kind of move forward. I want to briefly touch on your experience on Wall Street, because that was my goal, was to go on Wall Street. And when I graduated, I realized I very much dislike New York City, so I didn't do it, but I'm still fascinated by it. Tell us a little bit about your time on Wall Street.
So it came from, I came out of Howard Beach. I made my way on Wall Street, and my focus, my target in life that I wanted to hit was I wanted to make money. And my reasoning for that was, one, we all want to make money, right? That's the culture we grew up with here, or most of us do. And I wanted the quickest way to do that. I was doing construction, I was doing the swimming pools, and there were only so many hours in a day. I could only do so much physical work in a day. And this was a way to basically get paid more per hour. There were only so many hours in a day. And lucky enough to land a job there, closer to my target of making money, which would eventually get me to this place where I could grow a family and not have the stress that I saw all those families have over money. Very hard to grow a family when you're stressed over money. So I was gonna take that part of the equation out of my life. I was gonna make some money and then grow a family. And so I land there, and the way they're doing business doesn't make any sense to me. I'm looking at it over a 6-8 month period, and I'm thinking, this is the most inefficient, ridiculous way of doing business. Doesn't really just, I couldn't wrap my head around it. So I eventually started my own firm. And everybody laughed, because what would a construction worker, pool guy know about starting a Wall Street firm? Why would any of the big banks or institutions do business with this guy? And they were right. It took about 9 months. It was very, very hard going, uphill battle. Couldn't get very many customers to do business with me. And then one day, just like when Thomas Edison finally figured out the solution to the light bulb, the phone rang with a big customer, and it changed my life overnight. And it wasn't by accident. It was luck, but I made the luck because I toughed it out. We were nearly bust. We didn't have any money, and I just kept working hard. I just knew that at some point we'd see light at the end of the tunnel, and we did. And we had an incredible run with this firm we built from like 98 to 2005. Sold it in 2005, and met my wife, and we moved to Vermont.
Right in that kind of story, I think you touched on something that a lot of people follow, which is, I'm going to go after the money now so I don't have to worry about it later. And oftentimes the advice behind that is, that's a horrible idea. You're going to get stuck in a job you hate, or there's a lot of negative thoughts surrounding that. But you did it, and it seems to have worked. How do you feel about that statement?
I don't think it's a bad idea. Let me back up. Now that we have Spartan Race, and I'm sure we'll get into that, it is a much more fulfilling life I have, because it's not just about the money, it's about changing lives, and you feel like you're doing something great. So if you have a choice and that option exists, yes, do something great that has some significance in life. But we're not all that fortunate that we can make those choices. We need to make some money. And I think where people fail is not by choosing to make money early. Many people fail because they don't do that. They take the cookie or the marshmallow, if you know the cookie test.
Oh, yeah.
They take the cookie and the marshmallow now, and they decide to party and not focus on making money. And then they find themselves in a situation at 50 or 60 years old where they've got to continue to work hard. And you don't want to be in that situation. That's what most people do. The ones that focus on making money now, the mistake they make is they never leave. And the guy that got me onto Wall Street, that got me that first job, he said, the problem that's going to happen is you're going to be making so much money, you're going to be handcuffed. It's going to be very hard to leave. And I heeded that advice. I remembered that, and I had a specific goal, and I hit the goal, and I was out. Most people don't do that.
This week, we're excited to welcome our new sponsor, Opportunities. We received a package containing their clear tea the other day and got really excited. I'm kind of a coffee and tea snob, so I wanted to test it out, tried it, amazing, absolutely blown away.
Yeah, you definitely are a snob, and I like to make sure that not only it tastes good, but I want to know what the ingredients are, where they come from, and if they're natural. And the great thing about Opportunities is they tell you every ingredient that's in it right there on the box. You can also go to the website at opportunities.com. That's OPPORTUNITEAS, like teas, and see what every ingredient is, what it does, along with peer-reviewed information, so you completely know what's going on.
Yeah, and they stand behind their teas. I mean, there's a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. Who offers that? I mean, come on.
People that know it's good. The other thing is the energy and clarity is really noticeable, and it's not just a caffeine high. It's because of all the great supplements and ingredients, natural ingredients that are included in there.
Yeah, I noticed that. I didn't get the same type of reaction as I do when I get coffee. If I'm drinking too much coffee, start to get the jitters. I didn't see that on this clear tea. It was amazing.
So go check them out at opportunities.com. There's a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. It's free shipping in the U.S.
And we're here to give you 10% off. When you're checking out, use the offer code SMARTPeople to receive 10% off your order.
So as John mentioned, when you click on the buy now, there's a discount code. Type in SMARTPeople. Get your 10% off. Try Clear Tea today. Opportunities.com. Premium tea with proven supplements. That's really interesting. And I think it just goes to show there's different ways to getting to your desired end. And that brought you to the Spartan Race. And so kind of tell us about that transition and how you had envisioned that. I mean, they're two completely different ideas, right? You're working on Wall Street. It's you suit and tie to probably track shorts and a T-shirt where you're running up mountains.
I had my challenges to deal with when I was building the construction and the pool business. And those challenges were that people didn't show up for work. The people I had hired, they didn't show up for work. They didn't work hard enough. They would quit. Very hard to find great labor when you're working physically that hard. When I went to Wall Street, I thought this is going to be easy because I'm going to get all Yale, Harvard, Cornell, Princeton graduates. They're going to show up for work. They're going to work really hard. This is going to be easy. What I found was they had different sets of problems that came with them. And those problems were, they're not easily satisfied people. It doesn't mean if you go to a good school, you're not satisfied. I mean, people that go to good schools and have these high expectations and haven't worked with their hands and haven't reframed their reference in life where it's like, I had some tough times in my life. A lot of these people haven't had tough times. And we were making all this money. And I was paying out millions and millions of dollars to individual people, and it wasn't enough. And so what I needed to get away from that insanity, because that really drove me crazy, not being able to satisfy people with millions of dollars, was I found these races, these crazy adventure races all around the world. The crazier the race, the more I needed to do it. It was like a way to meditate and just completely get out of my head all this insanity I was dealing with on Wall Street. So when I left Wall Street, it was a natural progression, really, to try to start something and share that experience with people. It was so awesome. when I would go to these races, when I would leave for, let's say, a 10 or 15-day vacation, and I'd go to Alaska, 30 below weather in January, and I'd be out there for 10 days freezing, right? Near death experiences. All you care about is water, food, and shelter. You don't care about the guy that works for you that's complaining he's not making enough money. You don't care about the fact that, payroll is going to be tight this week. Nothing else matters. Water, food, shelter. And when you get to that place, it's a pretty nice place to be. And when you somehow break through all that, those negative thoughts you're having where you just want to lay in the snow and die, you're just miserable. Your feet are bleeding. Your eyelashes are frozen. And when you somehow make it to the finish line, it's so rewarding and it's so life-changing, and your brain has been rewired that I said, we have to share this. I have to create a more accessible version of this for the masses. And that's what we did.
I've heard a lot of people, and even my friends who have run marathons or done different types of races, you have some that say, oh, I can't wait to do it again. And I've had others that are like, I'm going to give that a while because it sucked. To me, putting yourself in that position where you're freezing cold, everything's uncomfortable, you're starving, you're thirsty, sounds terrible. And I just want to know, how do you say to somebody, or how do you motivate somebody to be like, put yourself in that situation? Eventually, it'll be a good thing. Because that's abnormal for a human to want to go through pain and stress and pressure and all that.
Yeah, it's not something we seek. We all seek easier, faster, better, cheaper. I don't know if this, and certainly we've convinced a lot of people to do this. So I'll give you my pitch, which is if you don't do that, if you don't get out of your comfort zone and sweat and freeze and go through that pain, well, then what happens is today, something bad is going to happen, because something bad happens to all of us every day. It just depends on the level. God forbid you hear somebody's got cancer. God forbid somebody gets in a car accident. Again, you can't make payroll. Whatever it is, something's going to happen today. If in the morning of that day you were in a freezing cold shower, or you did 300 burpees, or you did something that was really uncomfortable, well, then when that obstacle presents itself that day, because it's going to, it's a piece of cake to deal with. It's like, who cares? I'll deal with that. It's much better than the cold shower I took this morning, or it's much easier than doing 300 burpees. And I say that sincerely. I mean, if you think about 200 years ago, let's assume we've been on the planet for 1 million years. That's the latest research, right? We've been on the planet for 1 million years. 200 years ago, we had very low expectations. We just wanted the sun to come up. We didn't expect coffee to be ready in the morning. We didn't expect the car to start. There were no cars. Today, we have super high expectations. And so when those expectations aren't met, if we don't make the $2 million bonus we were expecting, we only get 1.8, our whole life is upside down unless you've changed your frame of reference. And so that's the reason to do these things, is to build some obstacle immunity, right? And it works. It works. I feel bad for the people that say, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to be in a comfy, perfectly climate-controlled couch, because then those people are not too able to deal with adversity.
It's actually really funny to think about that. Both Chris and I were just in Jamaica for a wedding this past weekend, and I had friends that were complaining that the Wi-Fi at the resort didn't work. And we're in the middle of basically paradise. It's really nice, and the Wi-Fi is not working. And people were losing their minds. There were people at the front counter yelling at reception, that type of thing. It does seem like we're getting to a point where we do kind of need to rewire our brains, connect again with how we were. And I think these races and other events are really the perfect way to do it. I mean, for myself, I ran one of the races, so now I like the idea of just taking cold showers in the morning, because I fall into that group of people that did it the one time, almost killed myself, and I was really proud of doing it, but I don't know if I'll run as long as one of those adventure races again.
Yeah. You should just reset your frame of reference on a daily, but even if it's the cold shower or some burpees or anything that just makes you uncomfortable, we can't expect in this life that everything should be perfect. And it's not going to be, and stuff's going to come up. And you just want to be able to more easily deal with that, because, by the way, it's not just how we deal with it. The people you describe in Jamaica potentially cause an entire headache with their families, friends, and the entire hotel over this Wi-Fi issue. And that's not a good place to be. Like, when I road cycle I'm in Vermont, I'm riding my bike on the road. You get these guys go by in pickup trucks and they're beeping, they're honking, they're pissed off, they're screaming, they throw a soda out the window. What did I do that made their life so bad for them to get angry like that? They might be so angry that envision they could go home and start fighting with their wife over the fact that there was a guy on the road that caused them to turn their steering wheel 3/4 of an inch. 3/4 of an inch. It didn't even affect their life.
That's
right?
Such a good point. I love this stuff. I really appreciate what you're saying. So tell us about the design of, let's see, which one should we talk about? Because I want to talk about the death race too. I mean, that's what I initially actually heard about, the death race, through my boss who's an Ironman. But how did you create that? How do you come up with the obstacles? I mean, give us a little in-depth look.
Death race really comes out of a decade or more of doing these crazy races that I did and thinking about what made my life miserable during those events, and how can we condense, let's say, climbing Mount Everest, or something really terrible, childbirth if you're a woman. How could we condense that experience, that pain that you're going to go through, into a 2 or 3 day experience that takes you completely to the brink, where you just want to end your life and then somehow miraculously come through to the other side. So I would say the death race is like an exorcism. Spartan Race is more like a baptism. Spartan Race is more accessible. The people that come out and do death race are regular moms, are school teachers, are business people, veterinarians, Navy SEALs, you name it. But they're people that really just want to test their mettle and see how far they can take it. And diamonds are made under enormous pressure with coal, right? And that's what happens at a death race. The obstacles could look like chopping wood. One year we had death racers build a stone staircase on our farm. We have a little mountain that's 1,800 feet in elevation, and we dug up 1,000 stones that weighed anywhere from 300 to 500 pounds each, and we had the racers install a complete stone staircase from the bottom to the top, because could they do it? Like, the pyramids always intrigued me. And somehow these 300 death racers installed a stone staircase that would blow you away if you came here and saw this.
Wow.
And it just didn't seem physically possible. Even I was questioning if it could be done, and they did it. And so challenges are unknown. We don't tell you in advance. Every year has a theme. We've had Year of the Gambler, Year of Religion. This year's, I think, Year of the Explorer. And the theme becomes clear towards the end. We only get a 15% finishers rate. So once we hit 15%, the race is over, which is an additional frustration point, because you're looking to your left and right and thinking, these guys aren't going to quit, or girls, and I'm exhausted, and this is really frustrating. Because if I knew where the finish line was, it'd be a lot easier. But the finish line could be 2 more days from now if they don't quit.
Oh, you don't know where the finish line is?
You don't know where the start line is either. When you come in and check in, it could start right at check-in. It could start a day later. It could start whenever. We don't tell you.
God, that sounds terrible, man. That really sounds awful.
But life is like that, right? Life doesn't tell you when it's over, or when doesn't tell you anything. You got to deal with it. And so we want it to emulate life. If you start the New York Marathon, it starts at a certain time in the morning. 26.2 miles, it's over. That's easy. If you told those 50,000 runners the New York Marathon, look, we don't know if we're going to stop it at 25 this year or 29, we're not sure, those people would go nuts.
The thing I like about that, too, is people tend to set goals for themselves. And like you mentioned, the marathoner is setting a goal to be able to run, 26.2 miles. You're making it so that these people can't set goals. They just need to kind of trust the system of surviving and making it, which is also really cool. I like that concept of not having to work towards a goal because, sometimes if you don't meet your goal, you're not good enough, that type of thing. That's a really cool idea of, hey, you're just going to come out here and run, and you have to make it to the finish line.
With death race, you really just got to outlast your competition, right? It's survival of the fittest. It's that joke when, you don't have to outrun the lion, you got to outrun your friend.
You wrote a book kind of talking about all this, Spartan Up. And I love the subtitle, A Take No Prisoner's Guide to Overcoming Obstacles and Achieving Peak Performance in Life. Is the overall message of that the same thing that we're talking about, the same thing that these races bring out, which is being able to deal with adversity?
Yeah, I mean, I just wrote a letter to America, and I'm fighting with our PR people to publish it or try to get it published, because it basically says, America, we are a fat, lazy, sick mess, and if you don't notice it, get your head out of your butt. And so that is definitely a passion of mine, is to get that message out that we are a mess. And the thing that just drives me crazy is it's so easy to fix. When you start looking at the statistics of what we drink on an annual basis, here's a really interesting stat. I don't know, it's 100 years ago, 150 years ago, we used to eat 2 pounds of sugar a year. Very loose stats I'm going to give you. 2 pounds of sugar per year. Today, we eat and drink a half a pound of sugar a day. Oh. Half a pound of sugar a day. And by the way, all we need to drink is water. We survived for a long time on this planet just with water. We don't need Gatorade. We don't need coffee. We don't need it. Just all you need is water. Now the book is not focusing just on nutrition. It's not focusing just on working out or fitness. It's focusing on, here's 4 or 5 simple things you can do in your life that will change your life overnight and will make you successful, no matter how you define success. If you want to be a CEO, you want to run your own company, you want to be the #1 artist, you want to be a singer, whatever it is, here's the blueprint. Here's how you do it. It's simple, but guess what? It requires work.
Well, I'm going to go buy it. I mean, I'm sold.
The last part there, it requires work. I mean, like you said, we're a very lazy country, and I think that probably turns a lot of people off, because people do want to sleepwalk through life.
No, I think about I spoke to Tim Ferriss recently, 4 Hour Body, and I thought, man, he was much smarter than I am. When you put 4 Hour Body or 4 Hour Work Week, or you're really appealing to what people want. They want a pill. They want a simple solution. And the title of our book, Spartan Up, is basically saying 40 hours. Like, you got to work. Yeah. It's not, there's no pill here. But I think what we're giving people is reality.
That's really funny. I'm actually interviewing a guy. His name's Rich Roll a little later. And I found him through this article he wrote I forget the exact title, but it was like, stop looking for all the hacks. Like, stop looking for a life hack, a tech hack, a sleep hack. That's not life, And that's basically what you're saying. Stop looking for all the shortcuts that we're trying to create. One last question that I wanted to ask you kind of in general. Through all of this, what have you learned about the mind? And then what have you learned about fear?
The interesting thing about the brain is the brain is really the only thing that's going to stop you. I mean, certainly if you didn't have water out in the desert, physically you're going to stop. That's not your brain. But 95% of the time, it's our brain that stops us. What do I mean by that? You're out doing a 100-mile run, your body will make it. It's very rare that your body can't do the 100 miles. You hear about all these incredible stories of a plane crash years ago in South America, whatever it is. People, the human body is capable of amazing things, much more than we could ever dream of. The thing that stops us in our tracks and doesn't help us achieve our goals, whether physical or business or whatever it is our mind. And I've experienced it firsthand. I mean, you go out and do some of these races, these adventures, and all of a sudden, I think it's a Brazilian term they've got for crickets that are in your brain. These little crickets, or my friend Andy likes to say, there's this little guy that shows up on your shoulder, and he's like, hey, we got to stop. This is too painful. This is ridiculous. I don't know what we're doing here. And you got to knock the thing off your shoulder. You got to get those crickets out of your head and try to get through another mile or two, and then they come back, and you got to fight them again. And I've been in situations where I couldn't take another step. I was done. I've laid in the snow and said, just bury me here, and I meant it. And then somehow you do another 8 days. How could it be? Another 8 days beyond where I couldn't take another step. So the body is capable of amazing things, and you just got to get the mind to stay focused. And that's the hard part. Now, fear, I think, is what keeps us from achieving great things. I think we're all afraid to step out of that comfort zone and be uncomfortable. You said it. You did one of these races and you don't know if you're ready for another one. I guarantee you, if you sign up for one and you commit publicly to everybody that you're going to do it, you're going to have a great time. You're going to meet cool people. You're going to start training in the morning instead of sleeping in. You might not have that extra glass of wine tonight that you were planning on having.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of a sudden, some great things start happening to your life. And it's all about getting over that fear.
Well, Joe, this has been, really incredible stuff. I appreciate it. It's a wake-up call to me. I know I tend to do this, and so these are the things that I want to hear. I wrote down mental toughness, underlined it. I want to look into it and just kind of dive into this and hopefully do a Spartan race. For those out there who kind of feel the same way I do right now, motivated to read more, to learn more, to do more, is there a place that you'd like to direct them? Obviously, what is the website for Spartan Race and anywhere else you kind of write or motivate, anything like that?
SpartanRace.com is the website. Spartan Up, the book, is the book. And even if you know people that would never do a race, let them read the book and maybe they'll just get out and do a 1 mile walk because they'll get motivated. I wanted the book to be called Spartan the F Up, and the publisher wouldn't allow it. So I printed 3,000 copies with Spartan the F Up anyway, and I've given them out to all kinds of friends and stuff. And the feedback is it's a very motivating book. If it does anything else, it gets you up off the couch, which is really the goal. And then as far as writing, I need to do that at some point. I need to start writing a blog. I'm just so damn busy. But anybody that wants to talk to me could just email me, joe@spartan.com. I already get 600 emails a day, so if it's 610, it doesn't really matter.
How many people are writing you just saying, Joe, you've changed my life?
A lot.
That's awesome.
And it buys me another day of email and phone hell that I'm living right now. But an old timer in where I grew up that definitely had a little bit of wise guy in him said to me, the best thing you could do while you're on this planet is help people. And so when I'm frustrated, when I'm having a bad day, when I'm just sitting in front of a computer all day and answering phone calls and emails, and then I get some of those emails that say, hey, you changed my life, it's all worth it.
Is that feedback better than the money that you saw on Wall Street and then giving out those bonuses as well?
Nothing like it. Wouldn't
awesome.
Trade it for the world. Yeah, nothing. And it's not cliche. I'm not BSing. There is nothing like people telling you changed your life.
Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Joe Sena. Again, his book is called Spartan Up, a take-no-prisoners guide to overcoming obstacles and achieving peak performance in life. It's fantastic. If you want to change your life and change your frame of reference and kind of get back to the roots of being a human, check out the book.
What about if you truly want to thrive?
Then you should probably go to chrisstemp.com.
Yeah, nice plug. No, seriously,
I'm going to charge you for that one.
Joe
actually
does. He does teach how to thrive, but that reference was in regards to chrisstemp.com, where I am doing some writing and talking about a lot of the things we learn on this podcast, and also some speaking.
I was just going to say, I'm going to throw this out there because I don't feel like you're going to do it.
Okay.
But if you like listening to Chris on the podcast and possibly want him to speak somewhere, shoot us a line. We're trying to get some speeches under his belt, and I think this is a perfect opportunity to market that.
Yeah, I'm actually speaking at 3 universities in a few months. So
that's awesome, man.
It's going to be a good time. So thanks, guys. And thanks for being part of Smart People Podcast. It's been a great journey, one that we can't wait to continue doing. Every episode truly is fantastic. John and I were just talking about how we get into flow and just love talking to these people. So thanks for being a part of it. Let us know what you think, and we'll catch you next week.